Welcome to the Hot News Channel, where we strip away the noise to analyze today's breaking stories. It is February 16th, 2026. I'm your host, and we are about to dig into the data that the mainstream feeds are, well, conveniently ignoring or just burying under a pile of fluff pieces.
And I'm here to ask the uncomfortable questions about what that data actually means. For you, for the country, and frankly, for the world. Because today isn't just another news cycle. It's not just another Tuesday where we complain about gas prices or something.
No, it certainly isn't. If you're looking at the headlines on the legacy networks, you might just see this scattershot of chaos. A list of names from the DOJ, a ship moving in the Middle East, some speech over in Munich. It all looks random.
It looks disconnected.
Exactly.
Right.
But if you look closer, which is precisely what we're going to do in this deep dive, you see a singular, almost terrified reflex from a system that is losing control.
That's it. We are absolutely looking at a historical pivot point. This isn't just about whether we go to war with Iran, though that is terrifyingly close. This is about a fundamental clash. It's between what the legal analyst Robert Barnes calls the Epstein class, that insulated, compromised elite, and the working class. And it's about the simultaneous collapse of these old narratives we've been fed, both in Ukraine and in the Middle East, and the desperate, dangerous flailing of a power structure that has just run out of road.
So the mission for this deep dive is very clear. We're going to connect the dots between three seemingly disparate events. One, the Department of Justice's sudden and frankly bizarre mission-accomplished declaration on the Epstein files.
Bizarre is putting it mildly.
Two, the massive naval armada that is converging on Iran as we speak. And three, the total collapse of the Ukrainian front lines that was just sort of glossed over at the Munich Security Conference.
It's the wag the dog scenario on steroids. I mean, you have domestic rot so deep it reaches the very bedrock of the republic, and the only way to distract from it is a global conflagration.
So everyone should buckle up. We're going to start with the drums of war because, honestly, they are beating louder than they have in decades. Let's unpack the situation in the Middle East.
The Iranian powder keg. It's ready to blow.
Right. Let's look at the hard data first because that's where the story begins. We have specific reports confirming a massive military buildup. The USS Gerald Ford, the crown jewel of the Navy, has been deployed. It is joining an existing armada in the Middle East. We are talking about a level of firepower that isn't just for deterrence. That's not what this is.
No, you don't park that much hardware just to send a stern letter. I mean, when you move a carrier strike group, you are moving a floating city. You're moving an airfield. You're moving a logistical hub that consumes millions and millions of dollars a day just to sit there. It's a statement of intent.
Exactly. And according to reports from Reuters and some really deep analysis by Syriana Analysis, the U.S. military is explicitly preparing for what they call weeks-long sustained operations against Iran. This isn't a surgical strike plan. This is a campaign. Weeks long.
Just let that phrase sink in for a moment. In modern warfare, against a peer or, a near-peer adversary like Iran, weeks long means an absolute catastrophe for the global energy market. It means a regional firestorm. And you have to ask yourself, why now? What is the rush?
Well, the trigger, legally speaking, is supposedly contingent on President Trump's order.
Mm-hmm.
But physically, the logistical pieces are already moving. We're talking 15 destroyers, nuclear submarines. The board is being set as we speak.
The pieces are in place. They're just waiting for someone to knock over the first domino.
And while the military board is being set, there's this diplomatic front that's playing out. Negotiations are scheduled for tomorrow, February 17th, in Geneva. But looking at the personnel involved, I have to ask, Is this really diplomacy?
Well, let's look at the names. Who is leading the U.S. delegation? Tell me that.
According to the reports we're getting from Janticow Reporter and MSNOW, the team is being led by Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff.
Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, a real estate tycoon and the president's son-in-law.
Witkoff is the special envoy, yes. A real estate guy.
I mean, come on. These are the guys you send to close a deal on a skyscraper in Manhattan. These are the guys you send to negotiate a foreclosure on a failing property. You do not send real estate moguls to untangle a theological, geopolitical, nuclear standoff that has roots going back decades, if not centuries.
It's absurd.
It tells me one thing and one thing only. This is not a negotiation. It's a demand for surrender. They are treating Iran like a distressed asset that they're trying to acquire or liquidate.
It does feel like a foreclosure proceeding, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And speaking of demands, we have some specifics on what is being put on the table. We've looked at the analysis from Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis and Trita Parsi regarding Benjamin Netanyahu's new red lines. And these aren't just minor adjustments to a previous deal.
No. These are what you call poison pills. They're designed to be impossible to swallow.
Let's just run through them for everyone listening. Demand number 1, all enriched material must leave Iran. Not stored, not monitored, gone.
Okay. A tough starting point, but maybe negotiable. What's next?
Demand number 2, dismantle the infrastructure for enrichment. Not just stop enriching, but tear down the actual machines, take apart the centrifuges.
Whoa. Okay, so that's a huge escalation. You're not just asking them to pause the program, you're asking them to erase it, to go back to square one.
Exactly. And then demand number 3, a ban on ballistic missiles with a range over 300 kilometers.
And there it is. That's the one. Think about what that last one actually means. A ban on missiles over 300 kilometers. If Iran agrees to that, they effectively disarm their entire deterrent capability against Israel. Israel has nuclear weapons. They have missiles that can easily reach Tehran. Iran relies on its conventional ballistic missiles to balance that threat. It's their primary deterrent. Asking them to give that up is asking them to be completely defenseless.
It's a total non-starter. There's no way any sovereign nation would agree to that.
It is designed to be rejected. That is the entire point. Look, if you walk into a car dealership and I say, I'll sell you this car, but you have to, cut off your right arm, and you say no, can I then turn around and tell everyone, well, I tried to negotiate, but he was completely unreasonable, so now I have to burn his house down?
That's a powerful analogy.
That's what this is. These demands are crafted to fail so that the war that Benjamin Netanyahu allegedly craves can be justified as the only remaining option on the table. We tried diplomacy. It didn't work.
And the Iranians, for their part, they are not blinking. We're seeing reports from Professor Mohammad Moradi at the University of Tehran and also from the journalist Laith Marouf, who was recently on the ground there. The word is, Iran is not bluffing. They have initiated their own naval drills in the Strait of Hormuz.
The Strait of Hormuz, the jugular vein of the global oil supply. If that gets shut down, even for a day...
It's global economic chaos. And the threat is specific. Iranian officials have warned that if they're attacked, they won't just target U.S. bases in a general sense. They've explicitly said they will go after the F-15 and F-35 fleets. They're saying, we know where your most expensive assets are parked.
And this is where the American or maybe the Western understanding of Iran just completely fails. We have this neoconservative fantasy, and it's been pushed for decades by people who haven't been to Tehran since the 70s. This idea that the Iranian people are just sitting there waiting for us to bomb them so they can rise up and embrace Western-style democracy.
Rick Sanchez's reporting from Tehran just completely contradicts that, doesn't it?
Completely. I mean, Sanchez was walking the streets, talking to people. He notes that this is a population that's been hardened by, 6,000 years of history. They've seen empires come and go. They might have internal disagreements with their government. Sure, who doesn't? But the moment an external aggressor threatens them, the IRGC and the public, they unify.
The national identity kicks in.
Absolutely. Their regime change fantasy is just so disconnected from the reality on the ground. You bomb them, you don't liberate them, you radicalize them against you for a generation.
So we have this powder keg in the Gulf, we have a diplomatic team of real estate developers, and a list of demands that are functionally impossible to meet. It looks like a collision course. But here's where it gets really interesting, or maybe tragic is the better word. Why? Why is this administration, which ran on America first, ignoring its voters who wanted no new wars? Why pivot to this massive conflict right now?
Because you have to look at what's happening at home. You have to look at what I'm starting to think of as the Epstein administration.
Let's transition to that.
Yeah.
Because the timing is, to say the least, suspicious. While this entire armada is sailing towards Iran, we have a profound domestic betrayal playing out. The Bondi list fiasco.
Fiasco is putting it lightly. It's a profound insult to the intelligence of every single American.
Let's lay out the facts. We have breaking news from Alex Christoforou and Robert Barnes. Attorney General Pam Bondi released what she called the final list of names from the Epstein files to Congress. She declared the matter closed, transparent, done, case closed.
Transparent. Right. So transparent you can't see anything.
But the list itself, it included names like Elvis Presley.
Yeah.
Janis Joplin.
Elvis Presley died in 1977. Jeffrey Epstein was a high school math teacher at the Dalton School in the mid-'70s. Unless Epstein had a time machine stashed on his island, Elvis Presley was not hanging out on Little St. James.
So why? Why include them?
Yeah.
What is the strategic purpose of putting dead rock stars on a list of sex trafficking associates?
It's called muddying the waters. It's a classic, almost textbook disinformation tactic. You flood the zone with so much noise, so much absurdity that the truth gets drowned out. You put Elvis on the list so that when people talk about the Epstein list, they laugh. Oh, that's ridiculous. Elvis is on it. It instantly delegitimizes the entire document in the public's mind. It makes the serious researchers look like conspiracy theorists.
It's a smokescreen.
It's a giant middle finger to the victims and to the public. It's the establishment saying, we're not even going to pretend to give you the truth.
And while they are adding dead rock stars, they seem to be deleting other things. We have these reports from Redacted and also from Congressman Thomas Massie, who has been a dog with a bone on this, that the DOJ is actively scrubbing the database.
This right here, this is the smoking gun. This isn't speculation.
No, this is data. The search results for the term Rothschild dropped from over 12,000 hits to roughly 11,800 in real time, literally vanishing before researchers' eyes.
Let that sink in. You don't scrub a database of 200 mentions of a global banking dynasty unless those mentions lead somewhere you desperately, desperately don't want people to go.
And this just confirms Robert Barnes's theory of the Epstein class.
Can you break that down for us? The Epstein class, what does he mean by that?
Barnes argues, and I think he's right, that we don't really have a Republican versus Democrat divide anymore. Not in a meaningful way. What we have is the Epstein class versus the working class. The Epstein class are the people who are functionally above the law. They are the donors, the intelligence assets, the compromised politicians, the media figures, the people who use the justice system as a shield, not a sword.
And the administration, in this view.
The administration, Bondi, Todd Blanche, even Swampy Susie Wiles, as Barnes calls her, they're not working for the voters. They're working as the private security firm for the donor class. They're protecting their own.
And Bondi's defense of this, when she was pressed on it, it was just disastrous. She literally said, and this is a quote, "Why are you complaining? The Dow is at 50,000.
That quote is going to go down in history. It truly is the let them eat cake of the 21st century.
It reveals their entire worldview in one sentence. Why do you care about child trafficking or justice or systemic corruption? The stock market is high.
Which means your 401k is up.
Right. It shows that, to them, justice is a commodity. The DOJ is a cash register for lobbyists. If the money is flowing to the right people, the crimes simply don't matter.
It also implies something deeply terrifying about how our foreign policy is made.
Exactly. If the administration is this compromised domestically, if they are willing to pull stunts like this to protect this class of people, then who is really driving the foreign policy? It's not the voters in Ohio or Michigan or Pennsylvania. It's the people holding the compromat.
Compromat. The Russian term for compromising material, blackmail.
Yes. And we have to discuss the shadow government theory here. Tucker Carlson, in a segment highlighted by Redacted, made a really chilling assessment. He argued that Epstein wasn't working for a single country. He wasn't just Mossad or just the CIA or just MI6. He was working for a supra-government of intelligence agencies that sits above elected officials.
A kind of management layer for the Western elite. A private intelligence service for the powerful.
Precisely. A tool for control. And Ro Khanna's reaction on Zeteo kind of backs this up. He said the redactions in the files are clearly protecting prominent men and that the British government is shaking because of it.
The Peter Mandelson connection in the UK is a big part of that.
Of course, this isn't just an American scandal. It's a transatlantic control mechanism. And if that mechanism is threatened, if the files are really about to come out in a meaningful way, what do?
You start a war.
You flip the whole table over.
So the Armada is the distraction. The Bondi list is the cover-up. And the Dow at 50,000 is the bribe to keep us all quiet and looking the other way.
And while we're all looking at these shiny objects, the entire geopolitical order is cracking, particularly in Europe.
Which brings us directly to segment 3, the Munich Security Conference. This year, the mask didn't just slip off.
No, it shattered on the floor for everyone to see.
This conference just wrapped up, February 13th to the 15th. And the headline event, really, was Marco Rubio's speech. Now, Rubio is the Secretary of State. You'd expect, diplomacy, nuance.
Some sort of finesse.
But according to the Duran, and this is Alexander Mercurius and Alex Christopher's analysis, this was a naked imperialist speech.
It was startling. I mean, usually American diplomats at least try to wrap their power in soft language. They talk about democracy, human rights, the rules-based order. Rubio stripped all of that away.
Yeah.
His message to the European leaders was effectively, we are the empire, you are the vassals, you are our warriors, get in line.
It was that blunt.
It was that blunt. There was no pretense. And the reaction from the audience.
Standing ovation.
A standing ovation. They applauded being told what to do, being told they have no agency.
But why? Why would they applaud that?
I think it's a mix of things. On one level, they are terrified of being abandoned by the U.S., but on another level, I think it was a relief for them. They don't have to pretend anymore. The European elites, people like Kaja Kallas of Estonia, they don't really see themselves as representatives of their people. They see themselves as managers of an imperial province. Rubio just gave them their marching orders. He said, we are going to confront China, we're going to confront Russia, and you are going to pay for it. And they clapped.
And that phrase, you are going to pay for it, isn't just a figure of speech. We're seeing reports, which Alex Christopher highlighted, about British and German military chiefs publishing these articles. They are now arguing that it is morally correct for their citizens to accept economic pain, and they're specific, they mean cuts to social services, in order to fund rearmament against Russia.
This connects right back to the Epstein class versus working class idea. These elites, sitting in their comfortable conference halls, are telling the nurse in Manchester or the factory worker in Düsseldorf, they're saying, you need to be poorer. You need to give up your pension, your health care, your social safety net. And why? So we can buy more missiles to fight a war you never voted for.
It's the moral case for austerity to fund the empire.
It is the moral case for poverty. It's neoliberalism in its final, most predatory phase.
And meanwhile, waiting in the wings at this same conference in Munich, we had some interesting American guests. Gavin Newsom and AOC were both there.
The shadow government in waiting. The government in exile.
Breaking Point's reported on this. Newsom wasn't there just to, sigtsee and eat pretzels.
No, Newsom's strategy was fascinating to watch. He was positioning himself as the shadow president. He was going around meeting with all these European leaders, and his message was essentially, look, Trump is a chaotic interlude. Just hold on.
This too shall pass.
Exactly. Grit your teeth for a few years. The adults, and by that he means the Democrats, will be back in charge soon. He was reassuring the globalist order.
And what about AOC's appearance?
It was a disaster by all accounts. Her attempt to pivot to foreign policy was seen as complete fluff. She wanted to sound smart and serious, but compared to Newsom's, Machiavellian maneuvering, she looked like an intern who was out of her depth.
So Newsom knows how to play the imperial game.
He was there to reassure the deep state, both at home and abroad, that the backup plan is ready to go the moment they need it.
So in Munich, they planning for a long war, maybe a war in 2027 or 2028. But the reality on the ground right now in Ukraine suggests they might not even make it to next week.
The disconnect between the rhetoric in that conference hall and the mud in the Donbass is just total. It's two different realities.
Okay, let's get into segment 4, the collapse of the Ukrainian front. We have battlefield analysis from the Duran and also from Stanislav Krupivnik, and the picture it paints it's grim.
It's not just grim. By their analysis, it's over. The war of attrition has been lost.
Let's talk specifics. The cities of Pokrovsk and Myrnograd, these weren't just towns. They were heavily fortified fortress cities.
Key logistical hubs. And they have effectively fallen or are completely encircled. But the bigger story is that the entire defense line is shattering. Krupivnik notes that the organized resistance that was present in mid-January was, his word, crushed. We are not seeing orderly retreats anymore. We are seeing a rout in many sectors.
And there's a new dimension to this war, isn't there? The energy war. Alexander Mercurius from the Duran points out that Russia has changed its tactics significantly. They are now systematically dismantling the old Soviet-era energy grid.
This is a war of deindustrialization. It's a very deliberate, methodical strategy. Russia's turning the lights off in Ukraine, and not just for the homes and apartments.
For the factories.
For the factories, for the railways, for the military repair shops, for all the logistics hubs. You simply cannot fight a modern war without electricity. And by all accounts, Ukraine is running on fumes.
Yet, if you only listen to, say, British intelligence, you get a very, very different story. They are pushing this 27-to-1 kill ratio.
Oh, yes.
They're claiming that for every one Ukrainian soldier lost, 27 Russian soldiers are dying.
27-to-1. It is. It's mathematically impossible. Just given the known artillery advantage that Russia has, which is something like 10-1 on any given day, it is pure fantasy.
So we fact-checked this. We looked at independent analysis from various military observers, and the ratios they're seeing are closer to 1-5 or maybe 1-7 against Ukraine.
So why lie so brazenly? Why pull a number like 27-1 out of thin air?
It can only be for one reason.
You have to keep the money flowing. You have to convince the taxpayers in the West that victory is just around the corner, that their money is being well spent. If you admitted the truth, that the front is collapsing and the investment has failed, the funding would stop tomorrow. That 27-1 figure isn't a military statistic. It's a marketing slogan for the military-industrial complex. It has no basis in reality.
And there's a truly bizarre footnote to this whole atmosphere of desperation. The poison dart frog story.
Oh, this one is the peak of absurdity. It's almost comical if it weren't so serious.
Alex Christoforou reported on this. The new narrative that seems to be emerging from some Western intelligence circles is that Alexei Navalny, who we know recently died in prison, was supposedly killed using toxins from an Ecuadorian poison dart frog.
It sounds like a rejected plot from a bad spy novel. But you have to look at why they're floating this kind of story. They need a new outrage. The old ones are getting stale. They need a new reason to sanction Russia, a new reason to escalate. When the news from the battlefield is this bad, when you are losing cities left and right, you need a sensational story to grab the headlines.
Putin uses frog poison.
Right. It distracts everyone from looking at the map. And the map never lies, but the headlines do, all the time.
Speaking of things that sound like science fiction but are apparently becoming real, let's talk about the future of warfare. We've touched on the tanks and the ships, but there's a whole other front opening up. Let's get into segment 5, advanced systems and what some are calling mind control.
This is where we go from a geopolitical thriller into a full-on dystopian horror story.
So Breaking Point's covered a story about the company Anthropic. Now, Anthropic is the tech company that markets itself as the safe, responsible, ethical alternative to the other big players.
Right. Claude, their large language model, is supposed to be the nice one, the constitutional one.
Well, reports now indicate that their system, Claude, was used by the Pentagon, specifically through the data analytics firm Palantir, in a raid in Venezuela. The objective was to capture or target Maduro.
So much for constitutional systems. This is the staggering hypocrisy of the tech sector. They preach safety and ethics and responsibility to the public, but behind the scenes, they are fully integrated into what Trump has renamed the Department of War.
It's a direct pipeline from Silicon Valley to the Pentagon.
It is. And it means that these advanced computational systems aren't just writing poems or, summarizing documents anymore. They are selecting targets. They are analyzing kill chains. The ethical guardrails are just marketing. When the military calls, the tech companies always answer.
And it goes even deeper than just physical targeting. Redacted had a segment on what they're calling cognitive warfare.
Mind Control 2.0. It's not a conspiracy theory anymore. It's a stated military doctrine.
They discuss the use of neurotechnology and even nanobots to influence human perception.
Look, it makes a terrifying kind of sense. If you can't convince the population with facts, because the facts are terrible, the economy is hollowed out for most people, the wars are failing, then you have to try and alter their perception of reality itself. We aren't talking about old-school propaganda posters. We're talking about using technology to literally nudge human cognition, to make you accept the unacceptable, to make you feel okay about things that should make you furious.
It connects right back to that 27-1 lie, doesn't it? If you can use these systems and media saturation to make enough people believe a false reality, you can maintain your grip on power even as the walls are crumbling around you.
Exactly. It is the ultimate tool for the Epstein class. If the working class realizes they're being robbed blind and sent to die in pointless wars, they revolt. But if you can keep them in a comfortable, algorithmically generated cognitive fog, then you can stay in power indefinitely.
But reality has a way of asserting itself, doesn't it? And usually it asserts itself through the economy. Which brings us to our final segment, the economic precipice.
The house of cards is starting to wobble.
We have a really stark warning from Ray Dalio, which was cited by Kim Iverson. Now, Dalio is not some fringe commentator. He runs the world's largest hedge fund. He understands money. And he places the United States in stage 6 of the empire collapse cycle.
Stage 6? And in his model, that is the internal conflict civil war footing stage. That's the last stage before the end.
And the signs he points to. Might makes right. A total breakdown of rules and trust. A hollowed-out economy that's being masked by massive amounts of money printing.
And that brings us full circle, right back to Pam Bondi's infamous quote, "The Dow is at 50,000." Ray Dalio would tell you that the Dow at 50,000 isn't a sign of a booming economy. It's a sign of hyperinflationary currency debasement. The number goes up because the dollar itself is worth less and less every day.
It's the Weimar Republic stock market.
That's a perfect comparison. The market is soaring, but you can't afford a loaf of bread. The stock market is a hallucination.
It's just a measure of how much money they've printed to keep the system alive for one more day.
And it exclusively benefits the asset holders, the Epstein class, while the working class gets absolutely crushed by the real cost of living. Food, energy, housing, all of it.
Okay, let's try to pull all of these threads together. We've covered a lot of ground, from the Persian Gulf to the streets of Pokrovsk, from the DOJ's redacted files to the neural pathways of our own minds. What is the single biggest takeaway here?
If we look at the big picture, the picture is terrifyingly clear. The Epstein class has successfully insulated itself from justice. The Bondi list proved that. They made an absolute mockery of the investigation to protect that supra-government we talked about.
And because they're insulated, because they got away with it, they are emboldened.
Yes, and now they are pivoting to a massive external conflict. It looks like Iran to distract from all of the domestic rot. So the hidden truth we've uncovered today is that the U.S. government is currently functioning not as a representative of the people, but as a shield for its donors, a shield for the compromised.
And my takeaway is about the timeline. Everyone needs to watch that weeks-long operations language coming out of the Pentagon regarding Iran. If that armada strikes, if the diplomatic team of Kushner and Witkoff fails, as they seem designed to do, we are not just looking at a gas price hike. We are looking at the start of a global conflict that is intended to completely reset the economic board.
It's the sovereign district of New York and the swamp. They've merged into one single entity. And it seems they're willing to burn the entire village down just to save their castle.
And that really raises the final question for you, the listener. If the information you receive is being actively scrubbed, like those Rothschild names from the database, and if the reality you see is being distorted by 27-to-1 propaganda, where do you stand? What can you trust?
The only thing you have left is your own critical thinking. And maybe, just maybe, the realization that the Epstein class isn't invincible. They're terrified. That's why the ships are moving. That's why the files are being deleted. They're afraid of you knowing the truth.
A very provocative thought to end on. If they are this desperate to hide the files and start a war, what is it that they are still hiding that we haven't even found yet?
That is the question of the century, isn't it?
If you found this analysis valuable, hit the plus or follow button on your podcast app and give us a like. It really helps us break through the algorithm. Subscribe to the Hot News channel for more deep dives. Until we meet again, goodbye.
Stay safe out there. Watch the news, but watch the data closer. Goodbye.